Now for the roundtable with WPTV political analyst Brian Crowley, and I misspoke. I said a couple of weeks. I'm blaming my successful cataract surgery last week for my apparent math problems.
I'm over here.
I don't know how my eyes connected to my math ability, but of course 9 days until Election Day. A lot of folks, though, are already out early voting or casting absentee ballots. First, give us the big picture take as we look at a pivotal 9 days ahead. In Florida, you heard Fernando Monti say he doesn't expect a lot of drama, at least top of the ticket, and perhaps not in the Senate race. What's your take, sir, for so many years covering the beat?
Well, there was something interesting that happened on Friday that suggests the possibility of a little more drama in Florida. The chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Andy Harris, a Republican from Maryland, Freedom Caucus, Congress,
Sure.
he has suggested that North Carolina, and this is why Florida matters, North Carolina, because of the hurricane damage, that the state legislature, even before the votes are counted, should award the state's electoral votes to Donald Trump.
Even before the votes
Yes,
are counted?
making the assumption that in the areas that were harmed the most, they were Trump voters, they won't be able to vote, so the legislature should just go ahead of time, award the electoral votes to Donald Trump. You could hear that same argument being made right here in the Sunshine State. We've had a couple of hurricanes.
Now, he was talking about
North Carolina.
You're saying he can make the same argument?
Well, he's mentioned a few other states. He hasn't said North Carolina yet, Florida yet, but I could easily see somebody making that same argument about Florida. We've had damage, people can't get to the polls, they're Trump voters, therefore the Florida legislature should award. We need to stop this kind of crazy talk. Let the process go the way it's supposed to go and count the votes and get her done.
And again, in Florida, there's not a particular concern, notwithstanding storm damage, about the Trump machine in Florida. But it does speak to the wider issues of the kind of legal battles we can certainly expect from Republicans and Democrats after this election. Talk about that.
Well, each side's blaming the other for, quote, manipulation of the ballot and everything.
When there's no
evidence of it. There never has been any evidence of a stolen election.
It's worth noting here, Brian, I say this a lot, it was his own cybersecurity chief in 2020 said it was the most secure election in American history, he and others. And so that's a point worth making 9 days out from the election.
Yeah, we have to have faith in our elections.
And he being then President Trump.
And we need to be kind to each other. I know somebody who's been doing poll watching on the west coast of Florida, and they're a Harris supporter, and he gets yelled at in harsh ways because of it. I'm like, disagree, fine, but it doesn't have to be mean-spirited.
Let's get away from the polls, which I know you hate. Why the whys and hows? Why the enduring appeal? Let's start with our home state of Florida. The enduring and growing appeal of Donald Trump in Florida. Obviously, there's a big surge in voter advantage, but what fundamentally, when you're out there and about and talking to people, drives his popularity and belief in him that certainly in Florida and perhaps nationally will carry the day?
I think historically people will go back and look at the presidency of Joe Biden and say that many good things were accomplished. Many good things weren't accomplished. But I think number one is always the economy. I think people have been very frustrated about the economy. I think, the whole COVID experience was very frustrating for people. I think that what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Ukraine, there's this, and then Biden is a personality who, especially after that horrible debate that he had with Donald Trump, he hasn't come across as being well. And I think there's just this sense that people are disappointed in the Democratic Party and that they want something else.
And that she can't separate herself enough from that?
I think that it was maybe the downside of her getting the nomination almost automatically was she didn't have months of going through primaries. She didn't have months of giving voters a chance to really know Kamala Harris. And she's been struggling with the issues of the economy and the border. She says she's going to fix both. And then she fairly gets the question back that says, well, what did you do the last 3.5 years? So, the Democrats are counting a lot on the idea that people are just weary of Donald Trump. look, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley were pushing the idea that people were going to be weary of Donald Trump and that he shouldn't be the nominee of the party because people weren't going to be able to put up with it anymore. Well, those evil polls seem to suggest otherwise. We'll certainly find out in 9 days.
And Brian, to be very, very clear, because people understandably, especially 9 days out, wait, you sound like you're saying it's in the bag for the former president to win or not. I know you well enough and long enough. That's not what you're saying. You're analyzing what you're hearing out there. And what would Harris backers, much as Mr. Amandi said, be trying to point toward in the 9 days for closing argument they hope will break through with more voters, whatever undecideds are left, or encourage more of their base to get out?
I really do think the only thing they've got is, do you really want 4 more years of the kind of stunts and the things that Donald Trump says that can be tiresome?
The threat to democracy.
The threat to democracy kind of thing. But, I still think the economy is going to be the big issue. I have never, ever predicted an election. I'm certainly not going to predict one now.
Not this close a one.
Well, who knows what's going to happen over the next 9 days. I mean, that could have an impact on the election. So, I think the economy and immigration are going to continue to be the big issues going forward, and we'll see how people feel about it.
Talk about the Senate race here in Florida. There's some, again, polls it's hard to get away from suggest, a tighter race. Rick Scott's never won by big margins in his gubernatorial or Senate bid. Talk about your sense of that and the lay of the land there for he and Marcus Powell, the Democrat.
The biggest problem that Florida Democrats have is that they now have a million fewer registered voters than the Republicans have for the first time in the history of, Democrats always had more registered voters than, often by significant margins, than the Republicans did. So the mystery really is the independent voter, the no party affiliation voter like me. We don't really know for sure which way they're going to go. But Democrats are working really hard in Florida on this election. They're really counting on a good Senate race. They've managed to get somebody in all 120 of the state legislative races. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can have any successes because they need to start making progress in this state, and it's going to be a long haul for Democrats to finally get a majority in the percentage point in his elections, but he always seems to pull it out, and I wouldn't be stunned if he did it again this time. Briefly,
Amendments 3 and 4, they've gotten a lot of the oxygen. Last week went over. We talked a lot about the amendments, and I also, by the way, on our elections page, talked to UCF political expert. We went through all 6 amendments. You can find that at home on WPTV.com. We went over that. You and Antonio Fins with the Palm Beach Post, and there's more information on PTV if you want to go over all 6 amendments in depth. But your brief thoughts for our on-air audience on 3 and 4.
Well, since last week, Ron DeSantis has really stepped up a very, very aggressive campaign against both amendments, 3 and 4, the marijuana and the abortion amendments. He and even Casey DeSantis have been out there campaigning very hard. He's brought in the whole apparatus of the state government to campaign vigorously against these issues. His catchphrase for the marijuana issue is that it's not about freedom, it's about greed. So he's saying there's these greedy companies that want to make a lot of money off marijuana. It's interesting when you see the pro and anti-marijuana ads. They seem to have divided up the sheriffs in this county. You have sheriffs that are like, we need to have this amendment passed. It will help save lives. And the other sheriffs are going, no, this is a terrible thing. So it's interesting how that's divided up because all the sheriffs are Republicans that are doing it. But and the abortion bill, that's the amendment. The Democrats are counting big on that being something that helps push everybody over the top that's running on the Democratic side because you have enthusiasm among pro-choice voters. We'll see. We don't know yet, but this is very important for Ron DeSantis to defeat these 2 amendments for his future campaign for president.
To be able to make an argument that he was, if in fact he can, able to do so. We'll have to see how it plays out. Brian, in our remaining time here, you're the best I know at kind of putting a ribbon around all this, the sentiments, the tidal forces politically that are driving us too often apart right now. Your sense as we move toward Election Day?
I wish there was some way just to calm everybody down. You know, you keep hearing stories, and we heard one last Friday about somebody who was hearing anti-Semitic remarks and was really, really hurt by that, you know, and, you know, we don't need all of that. We don't, there's no problem debating, arguing issues. The history of our country is we have disagreements often in the direction we should go. But we need to be careful about where the kind of hatred that we're starting to see on both sides can lead us. You know, we've already had one civil war. We don't need another one. And, you know, we need to have a little faith in how democracy works. Debate vigorously. And another thing I would urge people to do is check your facts. Don't believe every little thing that comes across your social media account. There's a lot of baloney out there. And it doesn't take that long to fact check things. Please do it.
Brian, thank you as always for your eloquence and insight. Needed now more than ever. And we'll be back with more with Brian in just a moment.